This is some of the problems that some of the scientists have with the rings, is that it causes feather damage, and the rings can also get caught on bushes and things like that, bend open, and the birds can get stuck.
Now, you can't take that off because that means somebody out there, a scientist, is busy monitoring him.
If the ring's are in a really bad way and it's really causing a lot of damage to the bird, then we will take the ring off because it's not worth risking the bird's life. But this is not too severe, so I think we will keep this ring on.
Okay. Is there a solution, an alternative, rather, to these rings?
There's been a few studies to do rubber bands and things like that. There's also some studies being done on identifying individual chest patterns on the birds, because the spots on their chest are believed to be like a fingerprint, so they keep the spots throughout their annual molt. So there's some work being done on that as well.
There is some good news. Sankob is a recognised world leader in seabird rehabilitation, and it's been found that rehabilitating oiled African penguins has resulted in the current population being 19% larger than it would have been in the absence of rehabilitation efforts.
330.
You can see he's also just molted. Just feel his feathers.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's so soft. They're such special birds. Why the passion for penguins?
That's really a passion for making a difference. And I think the passion has grown from loving animals into getting involved with these birds and getting passionate about saving a species. And I know that what we are doing is making a difference. And that is really what, you know, helps you to go through all the difficult days.
And with the weekly tests and checks done, the penguins wait patiently to return to their paddling pools and endless supply of fish. Ah, truly, it is a penguin's world.
She's searching for the truth. She's searching for the truth.
Having learnt so much about what Sankob is doing, I heard that a lot of people are working with penguins on Dyer Island, so that was the next port of call. Dyer Island was first named Ilha de Fera, meaning Island of Wild Animals, by the Portuguese seafarers during the 15th century. The name is still applicable. The island is home to tens of thousands of seabirds, including our African penguins. The island got its present name from its first permanent resident, Samson Dyer, an African-American who settled on Dyer Island in 1806 and made a living by clubbing seals for an American company. The island is today recognized as an important bird area. With penguins using this island as a breeding colony for centuries, their guana lay thick on the ground until humans stripped it. So now the penguins have to nest on the surface rather than in burrows. Lauren Waller is a PhD student who's looking at the impact of disturbance on the breeding birds of Dyer Island.
In today's information era, we certainly know that human beings have had a negative, destructive impact on the environment, as well as a variety of different species. Lauren Waller is a PhD student who's focusing on the conservation of penguins here on Dyer Island. Lauren, what lengths are human beings having to go to here on the island to conserve?
Dyer, like a lot of the offshore islands along the South African coastline, has had a history of guano scraping. So in a sense, what that's done is, you know, we've taken the guano off the islands and used it for fertilizer, sort of other commercial value, and we've taken that habitat away from the birds that they used to breed. At some point, the guano here on the island was about 6 meters high. So there's been bags and tons of it being scraped off the island. So as you can see, looking around, we've just left with a sort of rocky substrate, and the penguins can't sort of burrow into the ground. And they need to do that to protect their chicks and their eggs from heat and from predation.
This change in breeding habits had a dramatic negative impact on the penguin population, most directly an increase in seagull predation of eggs and chicks. Heat stress also leads to nest abandonment by adults. and outbreaks of avian cholera have increased the amount of human activity on the island, resulting in more egg predation. And there's not a lot that these quirky creatures can do to fix or prevent these challenges.
Over the years that you've been studying the penguins, have you noticed a dramatic decrease in their populations?
If you have a look at the literature and the data, there's been a marked decrease. Just on Dyer Island alone, in the 70s, there were about 70,000 birds on the island. And in the last survey that we did last year, there was about 2,500 breeding pairs.
What's so interesting to me is the fact that penguins are such a huge tourist draw. So this is a species that we really have to be protecting.
Absolutely. I mean, I think if you just take away the sort of the conservation value and the sort of the more purist look at things, you know, you want to conserve a species for the sake of the species, economically they have a huge impact. And overseas international tourists, they just love penguins, and there's a huge market. And I mean, they're very difficult not to like.
So what's a girl to do when she's faced with penguins with no homes? Well, the answer is to build them houses. The Faces of Need project was launched in March 2006, and Wilfred Cheville intends placing 2,000 artificial nesting sites on Dyer Island. He's done much research and now builds fiberglass penguin nests, which are just as good as the real deal.
When a person loves nature, conservation becomes a way of life, and this is the chosen path for Wilfred Cheville. Wilfred, one of the projects that you've been involved with are these fabulous, top-of-the-range real estate houses for penguins. What's it made out of?
Glass fiber.
And the shape of it is really interesting. How did you settle on this look?
The nest is probably about around 650 long, about 450 wide, and about 350 high. That is the size of a normal penguin nest.
And Wilfred, why have you chosen to do this?
I've always been into conservation, and I started working with the birds and marine mammals in 1998. And it was just natural for me to, once I started taking oiled birds off the island and so on, I started to think, how can I help them more?
And so, with his bare hands, Wilfred set to work.
If you ever have the opportunity or the privilege to be sitting at the penguin colony and just watch them, they're amazing little animals. They're incredibly tough little animals, and I think they deserve our help wherever we can.
Wilfred, if the general public want to get involved and help penguins, how do they do it?
They can buy a nest. We have a website, and the money goes to the Dyer Island Conservation Trust, and we build these little nests, but after the nest is being built, there's enough money left so that the scientists can still do work. We can have enough money to buy cameras, computers, and to help students come out to the island.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So for a small amount of 350 Rand for a nest, you can make a difference.
It's hard work to stem the tide of human destruction on wonderful creatures like penguins. But with unsung conservation heroes like we've met, our future and those of the penguins is filled with hope. Digital technology provided by Sony South Africa. Production vehicles supplied by Mitsubishi.
A true nature's child. She's gonna find the groove. Keep it wild, keep it free. This gonna be